And we're back with another episode of Around the Mat. I'm your host, Conscious Keelan. We've got a fun one today. Big UFC card coming up. PGF Season 3 is coming up. Gordon Ryan news. Daisy Fresh fight in the gym. Lots of stuff to talk about. So we're going to roll right into it. We're going to introduce the man, the myth, the legend, Brandon McCatherine.
Hello, all you beautiful little miracles. Welcome to the program.
We also have joining us, as always, our resident expert, 10th Planet Black Belt, Matt Skaff.
Sometimes Brandon's intros just make me think there's no way I can lose to this guy today. There's just no way.
We also have
Who you think taught y'all to smoke trees?
returning guest, Jiu-Jitsu Black Belt and CJJ vet, Michael Courier.
I can't follow that up. All I do is watch. I'm here for the show.
It's tough. We also have joining us for the first time on the Around the Mat today, 10th Planet Brown Belt active competitor, Chris Crawford.
Yo.
All right, so we've got some fun stuff to talk about today. I think we should start off with the Daisy Fresh fight.
Okay.
Did all of you guys see the fight that happened in the gym?
Yeah.
I did not.
You didn't see it?
Mm-mm.
Dang, when your album sales wasn't doing too good, who's the doctor that told you to go see?
I was trying to look it up, to be honest, before this. I didn't even find anything.
I don't even know if you're allowed to be on the show anymore. Well, I'll tell you what happened. I'll tell you what.
Let's see.
Oh, there we go.
Fresh. There was a little spat. Yeah, you can see it on the television set here behind me.
Oh, shit.
Miracles
Okay.
of modern technology. Just have a look.
I did see the clip of this. I didn't know that was it, though.
Yeah, they had themselves an actual fist fight. It was real life fisticuffs after practice, because there's a little personal spat going on, and so they went to coach and they're like, "Hey, me and this dude are about to square up," and coach was like, "Well, what rules y'all want to do?" And they said, "We don't want no rules." He said, "Okay, everybody get off the mat. We'll let y'all handle it here in a relatively safe environment amongst those that care about you." And they just squared it up. You see what happened. Somebody had to quit. So
now there was no rules
about it. That's right. Knees to the head, soccer kicks, the whole nine, bro.
Well,
Real deal. What do y'all think about that, Skaff? Go ahead. I want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. So here's the thing, right? Because the whole community's been talking, does this have a place in jiu-jitsu? You've got guys like Gordon Ryan and Tom DeBlas who are like, this is how real men handle things. Then you've got the other side, the exact opposite. That's like, this should never be okay. Like, they should be ashamed of themselves, right? I find myself somewhere in the middle. Daisy Fresh is a unique place. It is a place where people go and they know they're going to get the hardest training, maybe the hardest training in the world. I mean, these guys are all competitors. Every single person is expected to compete. And if they do not compete, then they are expected to compete when they come to class, right? You are there to help people try and win world championships. Now, yes, you're also there to, better yourself. And they've got a great leader. I really have a lot of respect for, the top guys over there. I love, what they've created. But it's different than your average Gracie Baja or 10th Planet. Our gym particularly, right? We've got a lot of guys that are, engineers and in their 40s that train twice a week. That doesn't really exist at Daisy Fresh. And if those guys do, they're expected to go with everybody. They are expected to do the wrestling rounds. They're expected to do all of the stuff that the competitors do. And so I loved, that they settled it this way, but I do not think this is what, shouldn't be the commonplace for most jiu-jitsu gyms. But I think especially, if you've got an MMA gym or you've got a lot of MMA fighters and, a lot of competitors. I've got no problem with this Valley Tudo. You need two things, right? You need the atmosphere to be okay. where again, like things like this, I'm sure there've been people fighting before there, right? Like this, I'm sure it's not the first time that this has happened. They just filmed it this time. And second, you need somebody like the head instructor, right? I mean, the guy that runs Daisy Fresh, every single one of those guys, like, look up to him, and he takes care of everything. You need a strong figure that is going to stop it when the fight needs to be stopped. If those two things are in place, let's do it.
Michael?
I think the biggest thing for me is just that I'm surprised that people are surprised. I mean, not only are we're all out there trying to, fight or grapple or whatever, things get intense, but of all gyms, like, no shit, of course they're going to get into it, and I think it's fine. I think as long as it squashed that beef and as long as it had a productive outcome, I think that I'm here for it. I think the difference is, if this were to happen at my academy, I probably wouldn't put it out there for everyone to see. I think that should be handled in-house. But I'm not surprised by it at all. And I think it's, we're competitors. I like a tough room. I want my guys to come at me and try to kill me. I do the same thing to my guys. And I think as long as it's all out there and it's not a surprise, then I'm here for it.
Chris?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Michael. I mean, I wouldn't be putting it online. But it's not necessarily too surprising, being in a bunch of different MMA gyms and stuff. There's sometimes some egos that collide. But I think, yeah, as long as everyone's kind of being watched and it's safe, then I think it's good.
Brandon, what did you think about how it ended with the rear naked choke? Even though he's getting beat up most of the fight.
Yeah, well, it didn't really end with a rear naked choke. It ended with one guy quitting, and he decided to give up his neck for a rear naked choke. But he was exhausted. He was gassed out, which is how most fights end, whether it's an arm bar or a stoppage or get him off of me or a choke or whatever. Usually when it's skilled people, you're not getting snuck. Nobody's sneaking up on you and catching you with something you didn't see. You know what I mean? They're ending you because you were done. You were looking for a way out generally. As far as whether or not I think that this has a place in the community, I definitely think it does have a place in the community, but I don't think that every place needs to have this as a resolution stopper, or, it's like as a way to find resolution. I don't think that would be appropriate in a gym that was mostly made up of, people that just are there to lose a little weight or have a good time or just, learn a little bit about a sport that they find interesting or whatever. Not necessarily the right spot for that. And I also don't want to I don't think it's good that we leave the impression that every time a real man has a conflict that it has to end like this. But there does come a point where violence is the only answer that's left. And I think if you're not capable of being this man who handles that situation in a way, like if you're not capable of doing that, then you're the kind of person who probably walks around with a little bit of fear, even if it's subconscious. You walk around with a little fear on you. So I think it's really good to be familiar with and capable of violence when the time is right, but I also think that the time is almost never right. So, but I do think that, we said this on the broadcast before. I've said this on the broadcast before. I think there's a little bit of the jiu-jitsu community is forgetting that jiu-jitsu has fighting in it. It's part of fighting. And look, I get that. Not everybody wants to fight. And I be honest with you, I don't even want to fight anymore. I'm not interested in that either at this point in my training career. But I remember what it's like. And so I think that there needs to be, just every now and then, we need to go, you know what? These are the roots of what we do. What we do is meant for fighting. Let's don't forget that that we're capable of violence when it comes down to it. And I think every man needs to be able to walk around knowing that he's capable of such things and knowing how he handles himself in such situations. And that will keep most men from feeling the need to exercise that because he's familiar with it already.
Nice. So let's switch gears straight into sport jiu-jitsu.
Let's go.
We got some Gordon Ryan news. It's been officially announced that he's in the super fight for ADCC as well as the division, the 99 kilo division. Thoughts towards that? Is he going to win? Is he going to be the first to like win them both?
Yeah, I think so. I do. I don't think that anybody in the sport can really keep up with Gordon Ryan technically right now, especially at the higher weight classes. Hey, mute Chris's mic real quick. Especially at the higher weight classes, I don't think anybody can really keep up with him, technically speaking. On top of that, he's a phenomenal athlete, especially for our sport. He may not be a phenomenal athlete in the NBA or in the NFL, but amongst grapplers, he's about as strong of an athlete as we can have. I mean, he's very physically strong, very gifted, an elite mindset as a competitor, elite experience as a competitor. I don't think he's going to have any trouble in the bracket. The super fight could be a different situation, but I believe he'll come out on top in that too. It just depends on how Galvao engages him. Because if Galvao comes in and engages in the same way that he did Pena at the last super fight, nobody really wants to see that. And, if Galvao comes in to just try to play the game and try to eke out a points victory, that he might be able to do that. But if he comes in and he tries to actually engage in a grappling match, a submission grappling match with Gordon Ryan, I think Gordon's going to put him away.
Skaff?
This is really interesting. This is one of those, I think a lot of people are like, man, Gordon's going to just smash. Hold on. I think this could be a huge mistake in the sense that Gordon is going into this weekend or to that weekend, in this over 99 kilogram division. So Gordon's going to be the heaviest he's ever been. He's walking probably 240, 250 right now. But big risk, right? Big reward. If he does this, then he goes down as the ADCC GOAT. He's the ADCC GOAT. But
for sure,
I mean, that 99 kilogram division is going to be very, very difficult. And there's a lot of guys in there that he's ruffled the wrong way. This last ADCC, I mean, that Hulk match was very competitive. I really look at Nicky Rod. I think they're going to try and get a match versus him and Nicky Rod early on, probably the second round. And I could see that that being a match that Gordon loses. Nicky Rod, in my opinion, is in the better camp right now with just the better athletes. He's within there with Craig Jones. It seems like that room is very, very healthy, in the sense of everybody seems to be way happier there. It seems, they're bringing in all these world-class wrestlers. They're just, the B team looks like it's the spot to be. Gordon's not really competing. He's got these stomach issues still. So, look, he's got to win that. And how let's say he does lose to Nicky Rod. Where is he going to be mentally? He just lost to a B team guy. Where's he going to be mentally going against Andre Galvao? You know what I'm saying? Or even if, let's say he loses to Kaynan Duarte in the final, or even if he wins all 4 matches, he still then has to go fight Andre Galvao. I'm just wondering where he's going to be gas tank wise. It seems like the more weight Gordon puts on his gas tank, there's times I've kind of questioned his gas tank. And I just think you've got Andre Galvao who's going to be geared. He's going to be sauced up. This is going to be the most jacked Andre Galvao we've ever seen. And Andre Galvao, this is for his legacy. If he beats Gordon, even if it's a super boring match, he is the ADCC GOAT. His record will be very, very difficult to beat. So I think this could be a huge mistake from Gordon. But if he wins, he truly is the greatest of all time.
Michael?
Yeah, I'm sitting at about a 50-50 chance of him actually making it to the event. I can easily foresee situations where Gordon is at 90% health, and I think he will always opt to pull out as opposed to compete at not 100%. If he does show up, I think I don't see anyone really giving him that big of a trouble. I really don't. I think that we were just talking about how I guess from an outside perspective, how boring Gordon Ryan's matches tend to be because there's no scrambles. He's just that much better than everybody else. I think that's why he can conserve his gas tank. Having seen him and Nikki train quite a bit, I think that Rodriguez looks great. He's very athletic. He's very dynamic. But I think that what often happens with those really explosive guys is they tend to explode into submissions. And I think Gordon will catch everybody. I mean, look at what happened at the trials. The trials I thought was obviously the best event they've had, but for that 99 kg division, I thought it was extremely under talented. I thought that there wasn't a ton of guys that looked great there. I don't think anybody, obviously only one guy from that trials makes it, but I think if Gordon comes in healthy, then his weight class is a warm up for Andre. Having said that, I believe the Galvao match will go down as one of the most boring matches you'll ever see. I just don't. I know there's just no way that Andre is going to engage with him. I think it's going to be a lot of hit and miss, coming in, penetrating. And then, the second Gordon touches him, he's going to pull away and then circle and then kind of penetrate through. I think it's going to be just a long, very boring match. And I'm not excited to see it at all.
Chris?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a long match and probably won't see a finish. I think it'll come down to points or they do judge's decision, right? Points or judge's decision. I think it'll come down to one of those two.
If it comes down to a decision, who gets it? Nicky Rod? Is he or not Nicky Rod? Galvao? Is he beating Gordon on decision?
I think he can, yeah, for sure. Especially if Gordon comes out and pulls guard first. I think Andre will pretty well keep him seated, and it'll just be it's going to be a replay of the Pena match, unless Gordon comes out and makes him wrestle and makes Andre Galvao pull guard.
This is a different ADCC, though. If you watch the trials, they are giving out way more stalling calls. That match with Pena and Galvao, it's not going to happen again. Especially the Buchecha Gordon match. I don't think that's going to happen again.
I thought the Buchecha versus Gordon match was phenomenal, though. I've gone back and watched that one a couple of times. It's not a high
amount, right?
Yeah, it's not a high scoring match, but it was a really good jiu-jitsu match. It was a lot of engagement.
Well, after the first, once Gordon swept, you saw Buchecha just kind of go on the outside. He wasn't really trying to pass, and he ended up getting a negative point. I just think they're going to be way more if Galvao's hesitant at all, they're going to be giving out those negative points. They're going to be forcing him to engage. Which
I hope so.
Yeah, that's. I don't think we're going to see. Galvao's going to have to engage.
I'll tell you something I don't like about this matchup is that it's a built-in excuse for Gordon if the super fight doesn't go well. Well, I was tired, or it's something that he can lean on and go, well, I wasn't really able to give my best to Galvao. I think that's part of the strategy, to be honest with you. He's leaving himself an out there. Now he's daring greatly, but by daring greatly, he's leaving himself room for an excuse. And so I think that's part of the game that he's playing. So we'll see what goes down. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right. Y'all want to roll into the UFC 269 picks?
Let's do it.
All right. So we've got a packed card, to be honest. The main event is Charles Oliveira versus Dustin Poirier for the lightweight title. Give me some thoughts on that matchup. Are we super interested? Is it a close fight? Who gets the dub?
Wow.
Brandon?
Personally, this is a must-watch card. This is one of the ones I could see this being the best card of the year. Top to bottom, it's just phenomenal. So this is right now going in my pick for card of the year. I think, man, just so many bangers on this one. But the main event, while it's not a marquee main event, I still think this is a must-watch. Charles Oliveira versus Dustin Poirier is just a phenomenal stylistic matchup. And it's one of those fights. I really feel like 55 without Khabib is the most fun division right now. because there's like 5 dudes that could be champion. I mean, you got Islam waiting in the back. We just saw Gaethje and Chandler have this insane fight. Like, I cannot wait for this, especially after the I think it's going to be just like Gaethje and Chandler. Like, both of these guys are going to have a chance to win. I mean, it was like Oliveira versus Chandler. Chandler hurt Oliveira early, but then we saw Oliveira come back and knock out Chandler. I'm picking Oliveira. I think Oliveira's got the tools to beat anybody, and I think he's going to find a way to finish Dustin Poirier Saturday.
Michael?
Yeah, I mean, man, I've been keen on Oliveira for a long time, you know, and he's always a guy who I wanted to do well. I thought that he never had the right nights to put it all together early on. You know, and he's one of those guys, I think, for me, I will always struggle to be a believer. Having said that, when I make picks, I am exclusively wrong. So I think I am every time. So I think, you know, my first instinct to say that, you know, Poirier's boxing will be too much and Poirier's going to pick him apart on the feet, get him loosened up, rock him out, you know, rock him and knock him out. But then we saw what happened with the last fight with Oliveira. His boxing has gotten much better. I think he has an incredible use of his range. You know, he's a long, thin dude, and I think that I think he just fights way longer than he should, and it's really good. And I think that could be a good way to see, you know, Poirier get kind of rocked a little bit. But Dustin's tough, man. I think, you know, we've seen him go through hell and back on the feet and always come out on top. And we've only ever seen him kind of get, you know, he got choked by Khabib. But I don't think Oliveira is anywhere close to where Khabib is with the grappling. But yeah, man, it's just a fun fight. I think it's one of those ones that we're going to be jumping out of our couch and kind of shocked the whole way through.
Chris?
Yeah, I don't know if you saw my phone. I was so excited. My phone's jumping everywhere. That's definitely going to be the fight of the year. I think Oliveira is going to get the victory. I think he's going to sub him. I think he's going to get. Honestly, I think he's either going to get a choke or like maybe an armbar or a triangle. But I'm feeling his victory. I think it's definitely going to be a war, but I think he's going to get up to the ground. I mean, he's a BJJ black belt. He's looked really legit in the last few fights I've seen of him. And yeah, you said his striking's getting better too, but I think that's a victory for him. But we'll see, you know. Could be wrong.
Brandon, what are your thoughts? If it stays on the feet, does Dustin win? And if
Yes.
it goes to the ground, does Charles Oliveira win?
So I think that Dustin has the advantage on the feet for sure, but I don't think it's as big of an advantage as people probably feel like. I feel like Oliveira, he plays long. He's rangy. He's not as crisp on his boxing and his tight, like hands range fighting, but he is very crisp with a longer distance. And if Poirier feels the need to get in tight and fight him in the clinch, I think Oliveira could be a real problem in there just because of his grappling. So I think Dustin has the advantage on the feet, not as much as people probably think. And I think Oliveira has the advantage on the ground, but probably not as much as people think. If you'll think back to that Khabib fight, young Chris, young squirrel, if you'll think back to that Khabib fight, Dustin had a head and arm attempt against Khabib there, and Khabib had to address it. Am I crazy? That happened, right?
No, it definitely happened.
Yeah.
I think if the cage wasn't there, he might have had a good look.
He had a pretty good look. Khabib, of course, so good. How many times that guy's head has been caught in a guillotine type situation? He finishes the takedown and finishes in dominant position, which is what happened there. But Khabib had to go to his back to defend that thing, if I recall correctly. So Dustin is very good. He's got a very, very, very good Darce choke. He's got a great head and arm game. He's a black belt level grappler. He's going to be very hard to take down. I think if Oliveira does get the advantage in the grappling, it's not going to come on the end of a takedown. It's going to be because he climbed him on the fence and got to his back during a cage wrestling situation. So I think it's a toss-up. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pick Poirier as my winner. I don't feel a tremendous amount of confidence in that pick, though. I'll tell you the next fight, though, Nunes versus Pena. I mean, that one's a blowout for me. Pena, she seems like a wonderful human. I'm sure she's a fantastic person, but she's gonna get hurt. She's gonna get hurt by Amanda Nunes.
Skaff, does Julia Pena have a chance?
No.
I mean,
No.
skill wise, there's
No.
not one. Yeah, there's not one place that you could point that Juliana Pena has a chance to beat Amanda Nunes. This is one of those fights. I mean, I'm seeing it's plus 600, and that even shocks me.
Yeah, it should be way larger deficit than that.
I mean, this would be the biggest upset in UFC history. This would even beat the George St. Pierre, getting beat. Like, I don't think anybody can fathom a world where Juliana Pena wins in any way, even just a decision. I mean, Amanda Nunes would have to have COVID or something, just like the flu. She would have to be in there and just be half dead.
She had to have a full set of COVID toes.
Yeah, she'd have to have that new variant, that Delta Gamma ray thing, and her eyes have to be bleeding out, her eyes and her ears, all this orifices just bleeding.
Hey, no kidding. If Amanda Nunes comes into the fight and she has an active case of Ebola, do you think that narrows the betting line? Or is it still
100%. I mean, I think honestly it should be Juliana Pena and one of her training partners versus Amanda Nunes.
That's not a bad idea. I would actually pay more to watch that fight.
Can we get Pena and Cejudo versus Nunes?
Dude, I don't think the line moves that much.
Triple C.
So the prelims are pretty stacked. Derek Chilson kind of chimed in on that in the comments, but the main prelim match is Josh Emmett versus Dan Ige.
Ooh, that's a rumble right there, boy.
And then surprising to me, I'll let you guys talk about it. Not even the main fight on the prelims is Pedro Munoz versus Dominic Cruz.
Unreal.
So we also got Eric Anders, a local fighter, on the early
your boy,
prelims, and then Ryan Hall, our jiu-jitsu guy, on the early prelims,
and Aaron Blanchfield on the early prelims too.
So we've got some sick fights. Let's talk about some of the prelim matches. Let's start off with the Dominic Cruz and Pedro Munoz.
I think top to bottom, this is the most stacked UFC card that I can remember in a long time. I think there's a couple of fights that are on the prelims that would be good co-mains on the main card. Like you touched on it there. Munoz versus Dominic Cruz. Dude, are you kidding me? That's an amazing fight. Josh Emmett versus Dan Ige. That is a banger of a fight. Josh Emmett hits like a freight train at that weight class. And Dan Ige, he's a very well-rounded, very good, technical, clean fighter, and he likes to scrap too. So I think I'm going to go Josh Emmett over Dan Ige, and I think I'm going to go with Munoz over Dominic Cruz.
Oh, I'm going the exact opposite. I've been
of course you are.
I've been loving what I've seen from Danny Ige, his last few fights. And yes, Josh Emmett's had some really, the dude, one of the hardest hitters in that division. But I really love what I see from Danny Ige. The Pedro Munoz Dominic Cruz fight, I cannot believe that's like the
unreal. That's as good a matchup as you can see.
That doesn't even make sense. Dominic Cruz, arguably, the best 135er ever. And Pedro Munoz. What's crazy to me is, right, like, yes, Cody Garbrandt's on the main card, and he's got all this hype, but Pedro Munoz knocked out Cody Garbrandt.
Bad.
Yes, Cody kind of schooled Dominic Cruz, but still,
No, he didn't kind of school Dominic Cruz. He embarrassed Dominic Cruz. He embarrassed him.
I hear you. But Pedro Munoz sent Cody Garbrandt into the netherworld. It's true. So, but I like Dominic Cruz in this fight. He's definitely not going to bang with Pedro. I think Pedro's going to be a little, because Pedro looked so much slower than Cody, but Cody just stood there and banged with him. And then chin, not quite what Pedro's was. I think Dominic's going to win a decision there.
Michael?
Yeah, I think so. I think Dominic's smart, man. He's obviously kind of on his way out, I think, but I think he's just way too smart to trade. I think he's really, really hard to hit. His movement looks incredible always. We'll see if he really has that still. But I could easily see him squeaking out a decision. I think it'll be a close fight. If it does end early, it's going to be a knockout from Pedro. No problem there. But I think that I think Dominic will stay elusive and kind of be able to move around a little bit and miss all those heavy punches. But that Josh Emmett fight, Josh is the guy you can watch get destroyed for 14 minutes and 45 seconds, and then just throw a fucking punch from the ground up and knock somebody out of the cage. I mean, he's one of those fighters that's almost scary to watch because at no point do you feel like he's out of it. I mean, his punches hit so differently than anybody else at that weight class. It's super fun to watch. You're always on the edge of your seat.
And, I don't feel that way. Even though I feel like Ige is very, very skilled, I don't feel like he's got that X factor. I feel like he's a tough dude that's well-rounded, great striker, great jiu-jitsu guy, great wrestling. He's going to be good at everything, but Josh Emmett got them heaters.
Yeah.
On his
and I think that's going to be in Ige's head the whole fight.
The first time he hits it will be.
It doesn't matter how far ahead you are on the point. You have to know that this guy's waiting just for the right moment. And if he lands one punch, it could be lights out. So I think that a guy like Ige, I'm sure he's mentally tough, but I think that's going to be in the back of his head the whole fight.
Hey, I want to hear what Chris has to say about Ryan Hall's matchup.
Yeah, I feel like there's going to be a heel hook coming on. I don't know much about his opponent, to be honest, but at the same time, I think seeing after Ryan lost that last fight, I think now, that he might have to change some stuff up or, maybe that might happen again. Who knows? But I am very excited. I'm always excited to see Ryan Hall, step in the cage.
Well, here's the thing about Ryan Hall, though, that kind of scares me is he is going against a guy that's a submission artist. And not that scares me at all, because there's no way in hell Derek Minner taps out Ryan Hall unless he hurts Ryan Hall in the feet. And I think we've seen enough of Ryan Hall's strategy, right? He's going to throw kicks when he's at range. He does not engage in the boxing range. But we know with some type of weird injuries coming. So unless Ryan has just been working his singles and doubles, I could see this being a fight that he loses. I could see Derek Minner just outboxing and just staying away anytime he goes for. Like, if you can't escape an Imanari roll at this point, like, you need to fire your coaches. I mean, honestly, if you know it's coming and you can't escape an Imanari roll or a 50-50 roll, like, you need to fire your coaches. We saw the very talented Spaniard last time. I mean, he embarrassed Ryan Hall. And I'm really worried about Ryan's strategy coming in. And this is a layup fight. This is a fight he should win. The UFC is giving him that. But I don't know.
Yeah. I think Ryan Hall embarrassed Ryan Hall in his last fight. I think he went out there and attacked that looked so. I mean, I love Ryan Hall, but his entries were just empty. I mean, and it's not jiu-jitsu, and like you said, anybody who's not seeing those tricks and watching tape on him, they should be firing their corner, because the stuff it's relatively transparent. And I don't think anybody who's at the pro level in the UFC is taking that bait any longer.
Let's talk Eric Anders. Brandon, what are your thoughts on his matchup coming up?
I'll tell you this. I'm always picking your boy. Always. I'll never pick against my friend Eric Anders. I don't care if he's 0 for his last 30. I'm always going to pick him. So I'm going with your boy.
Do we know anything about Andre Muniz?
I know he's fighting Eric Anders. That's all I need to know. Put that thing on him, Eric.
Man, Eric has been in this weird spot in his career where he is so likable. Everything about him, his story, obviously the national championship game at Alabama. He's got a fan base coming into the UFC. Like, he already had a fan base, a very, very passionate fan base. the UFC wants Eric Anders to succeed. So they're always going to give him fights. And he's done a lot of solid favors for the UFC. I mean, Eric Anders and Dana White, like Dana White should be sending Eric Anders Christmas cards. I mean, he's saved, a couple of pretty big fights in the past. Eric's on that winning, right? Like he had that no contest for the knee, which was, bad mistake by Eric, but goes on, beats the guy in the fight. Like Eric needs to make a run. This is the time. And it's going to start with, this fight right here. He's got to win it. Got to win it. I'm picking Eric. Like Brandon said, we love Eric. Eric's the dude, but he's got to win it.
He's back in his weight class, fighting a top 15 fighter. So this is the chance to make a run, like you said. Quick question about the prelim main event, Josh Emmett. Do y'all think that the UFC chose that as that main event for the prelims just for that knockout ability of Josh Emmett, like the highlight reel potential?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I think.
Go ahead, Michael.
I just think, I 100%. I think if you put Dominic Cruz in there leading into the main card, I think it's going to be, not a boring fight, but not the one that the casuals are going to be super excited about. And I think if you have a guy at the bar watching John Emmett knock somebody's head off, they're super hyped into going to that main event or main card.
Yeah, Josh Emmett, when you watch him fight, it looks like a fight.
Oh, yeah.
When you watch Dominic Cruz fight, it looks like a guy outthinking you and doing weird stuff until he wins.
Which is incredible, but
dude, yeah, I love to watch Dominic Cruz fight, but I could also see that Cruz versus Pedro Munoz fight being, just because of the style matchup, being something where Pedro ends up chasing him around the cage for 3 rounds. You know what I mean? So yeah, I don't know. That one's a toss up. I think I'm going with Pedro though. I feel pretty good about Pedro winning that fight. If it's any kind of grappling exchange and Pedro touches his head, the fight's over. I'll tell you that. If Pedro grabs Dominic Cruz around his head or his neck area, the fight will end right there. I've been in Pedro Munoz's guillotine, and I'm telling you, it's the real deal. It is no joke. I went to Brazil to corner Ben Saunders one time, and Pedro Munoz showed us around the city, took us to his old gym in Sao Paulo where he trained, and I got to roll around on the floor with him a little bit. And I'm telling you, if he grabs your head, that's as high level of a guillotine as there is. He is gonna close the deal. So
yeah, but he doesn't grapple
until Dominic gets hit a couple of times. Yep. Dominic tries to shoot in and get takedowns. Dominic thinks he's a grappler.
Yep. And Dominic has that head down double leg too.
Yeah, he does.
Real lazy. He bends at the hips, and yeah, it's guillotine city.
Yeah, it could be. If he gets up over close to the cage, Dominic, he doesn't make a lot of mistakes though. That's the thing. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes, and he definitely doesn't make the giant type of mistakes to get your head grabbed. Yeah. But Pedro's a headhunter. He's a headhunter with his striking. He's a headhunter with his submissions. He could put Dominic away, I think.
But this just seems like a great matchup for him because we saw Cody Garbrandt embarrass Dominic, but that was just purely a speed thing and footwork thing, right? Like Cody could keep up with Dominic and he just out footworked him, and he was at all the right angles, and Dominic couldn't hit him. But Pedro's slow, man. Pedro was a couple of steps slower than Cody.
But Cody wants to get in the pocket and brawl, though.
That's what I'm saying. So he came
like
into Pedro, and that's what I'm saying. I think he's just going to have a really tough time hitting Dominic. I think Dominic's just going to stay on the outside and win a pretty comfortable decision. Pedro's going to throw some heat at him, but I just think he's going to really struggle to hit the mark.
So last thing on the agenda, PGF Season 3 is coming up beginning of January. What are we looking forward to most? Is there some specific matchups, some competitors? I know we got some guys that haven't competed much here in the Southeast, like Dane Leake, etc. What are y'all's thoughts coming into Season 3?
Well, Season 3 of the PGF starts January the 9th. It's going to be live every night. So they're going to play three matchups per night on Monday through Thursday, Friday off, and then on Saturday, we're going to do the 8-man tournament with a no time limit final. All right. And we got a really stacked event this time. Every night it's going to be live. The thing that I think, as I talk to people about it, and as people are like, oh, what do you think about PGF this year? The thing that it seems like people are most excited about is the draft. I think people are more excited about the draft than they are the actual season, which is really fun to me. So yeah, that's the thing that I'm looking forward to the most, is that we're going to try to execute this draft idea that I had for season 1, but really didn't have a way to do it for season 1 and season 2. We're going to try to execute it for season 3. So yeah, we'll see what happens. And a much more stacked roster than what we had for season 1 and season 2 as well. A lot more black belts in there.
Well, I want to ask these two guys, how would you feel getting picked, and especially if you felt disrespected by where you were picked as a competitor? So you're going in with these coaches, and some feelings are going to get hurt. There's going to be a lot of people with a chip on their shoulder because, I mean, we're doing, 6 rounds of drafting, and so there's going to be some guys that get picked in the, a black belt that gets picked in the 3rd round that's going to be like, maybe a purple belt. There's definitely going to be a purple belt picked over a black belt. How would you?
You're getting
feel
paid on draft position too,
yeah,
which is going to make it sting a little worse. It's not just
yes,
I didn't
exactly.
get picked first. I got paid less because I didn't go in the 1st round.
Yes. How would you guys feel about like that situation?
Man, I think it's pretty hard to ruffle my feathers. I think that at the end of the day, like, it is what it is. Chris is a brown belt. I'm a black belt. Chris fucks me up every day of the week. Doesn't bother me. Of course you're going to pick Chris. So, I think that some guys are going to get ruffled about it. I think that some guys are going to get super hungry because of it. And I think they're going to go out there, with a chip on their shoulder and say, hey, how dare I be, drafted this number? I think it's going to really increase the intensity. And I think I love having that drama in jiu-jitsu. I think that, there's a reason why The Ultimate Fighter, has those fans, because like, all that drama leading up to it. I think that it's such a brilliant marketing scheme for the PGF. I think that anything that adds to what we do, I'm here for it. I mean, I love it. I think that the big thing that I love about PGF is coming from the West Coast. I don't recognize a lot of the guys, and I like seeing these new guys coming up and doing some cool things. Jiu-jitsu's young, man, and jiu-jitsu is so regional that we can have my professor who, if you're in the Pacific Northwest, everybody knows him, or like down here in Arizona, I moved here and everyone knew who Jay Pages was. I had never heard of the guy, but here he's a legend. And I think that the PGF really kind of exploits that. And I love everything about it, man. I'm super excited.
Love hearing that. Hey, Chris, you got your black belt, didn't you?
No, I'm a brown belt.
I thought you got your black belt recently. Psych,
No,
just kidding.
Man.
My bad. Dog. I heard Mike say brown belt. I was like, wait a minute. Chris might have gotten his black belt, but just kidding.
No,
you can roll up some black belts though. That's what counts.
Yeah, right. As far as that goes, I like the idea. I used to watch a lot of like the fake wrestling and stuff growing up. So like the draft became a thing. Obviously they stole that from traditional sports and stuff like that. But I think it's interesting. It catches my attention. I actually didn't know that was a part of the season, so I like that idea a lot. I'm sure there's going to be some feelings that get hurt from maybe a couple people, but I think, like Michael said, you're seeing young guns coming up like that. Cole, what's his name, Abate or Agate? I don't want to be botching his name. Yeah, he's a young gun, but I don't think anyone would second guess him getting picked over maybe a black belt 1st round or something if it was something like that, because he's legit, and it is a young man's sport. You're seeing younger guys coming up. They might be a belt or 2 below you or 3 belts below you, whatever the case may be, but they're legit, After a while, belts don't really necessarily become a thing. And yeah, I think the idea is really cool. I'm excited for it.
Hey, Keelan, roll up here to this comment by Russell Marbett right here. Yeah, right there. Let's see if you guys know anything about this. He says, I thought I read that Galvao will compete in his division too. I have not read that, and I would be surprised to find that's true. Have you guys heard that at all?
No, I haven't heard that.
No way.
Yeah, there's no way. Exactly.
There's way too much risk for Galvao to do that.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, say he loses 2nd round, everything's done for him.
Yes.
They're just, I think he retains his legacy with a loss to Gordon.
Yeah.
But if he loses in the bracket, that changes a lot for me.
Yeah, it changes. Agreed. Yeah. Agreed. I don't think there's any chance that that's going down that way.
Well, I think thinking about the PGF, last thing I want to say about it is I really think this can be a showcase for Sean Applegate and his guys. Just looking at, the names I see, and just knowing Sean, and anytime Sean's on the show or just I see his guys compete, I mean, the dude is just a grappling genius, and I'm really expecting him, and especially if he gets his guys, I think it's a showcase for what he's doing at 10th Planet Atlanta. It's Kevin Sherrill, that Kevin Boring, and obviously Elijah Carlton. That's a handful of guys. I think those guys right there are going to absolutely kill it. And I'm looking forward to seeing Sean just coach and be a part of the PGF. And it's going to be really cool to have some 10th Planet Atlanta talent in this, and just see how they do. Because the PGF is a grueling, grinding. I mean, you can get injured second night and you're out. I mean, you're doing 4 matches a night. I mean, this is way more difficult than a regular, especially a super fight or even just a bracket tournament. So we'll see.
All right. Well, that wraps up what we had on the agenda. I suppose I should tally up these points.
Let's go, dog.
Looks like we have a clear winner. I regret to tell you guys
I like the way this is going already.
that the winner
I'll just go ahead and take this.
is Brandon.
Oh my God! I
Come
am
on.
the winner. I am the winner.
It's such
I
a
am
weird
so
thing that you
smart.
always win. How crazy is that?
I actually
Strange.
never win.
Yeah, Brandon actually never wins, but he had that Teddy Roosevelt speech early on that was pretty good, and so I knew.
Wait, I had a
that
Teddy.
he
What
was
did I say
looking
about
back.
Teddy Roosevelt?
No, Teddy, it was like.
Like
was
a
good.
Teddy Roosevelt
You got,
speech.
like,
where you're talking
Teddy
about
Roosevelt
fighting.
esque.
You got
Yeah.
maybe 3 points in that one little speech.
All right.
That's
Hey
what
man, so listen, mute these other jokers right here. Let me say what I got to say. Let's get the amateurs off the broadcast. www.brandonmc.ninja. I got free stuff if you need to learn some jiu-jitsu. I know some of y'all out there are white belts. Some of y'all are blue belts. You're like, how do I stop getting crushed when I'm on the bottom position? I got something for you. Go to brandonmc.ninja. Type it in your little browser right there. Free course. Stop getting crushed. I'm going to help you out. I'm going to set you up. That's all I got to say about it.
All right. We'll bring the people back.
I guess they can come back on my show.
Anything
Oh my
y'all want
God,
to say?
I'm so good.
Well, I suppose that wraps it up for another episode of Around the Mat.